And one of the things that I always encourage them when I get this question is to survive the contact, survive it. Because you never know, just like police officers, we don't know when we walk up to the car who we're dealing with. You as a black man, as a young black man, or a young black woman or a black woman, you don't know who's coming up to your car as well. And so if there's some pushback, if there's some conflict, I always encourage you to just get through it as best as you can, as safely as you can. And once you get through it, once you survive it, then you can deal with the aftermath of or what you just went through. And there are channels that law enforcement agencies do and should provide that allows you to address those concerns that you have just experienced, and there should be some way to seek remedy. But the main thing is to try to get through it. Now, I know that we just witnessed what happened in Minnesota, and so some may be saying, well, you know, look what happened to him. Look what happened to George Floyd. I know that. But my encouragement has been and will always be to just survive the contact.
Bobby, that hits me, because when you say survive, and I think that's the challenge, and that's the problem, is that most of our people don't survive.
Yeah.
A lot of them don't survive. And so to say to survive, I understand what you're saying coming from your heart, but I think that's the challenge. How do you survive? And I think that's a whole nother conversation as far as and it's unfortunate actually when you think about that has to be said to our community, to Black men and Black women, to just survive. When you think about the white community, they don't say that. They don't have to say that. And so that hits me a little bit. And you brought up the George Floyd, Mr. Floyd situation and murder last week. Tell me, what are your thoughts from a law enforcement? What did you see? I mean, talk to me from that standpoint. What did you see when you saw that video and you saw that police officer with his knee on the back of Mr. Floyd's neck for 7 to 9 minutes? I'm not sure how long it was, but and the look on his face. You being a police officer, what did you see?
You know, Jamie, I didn't see it from a police officer's perspective. I was a Black man looking at a Black man murdered. You feel me?
I feel you.
I've been a police officer 30 years. 30 years ago, if I had decided to do something else, George Floyd could have been me. He could have been me. That was the worst example of a lack of humanity that I ever saw in my life. Now, there's a word called indifferent, and that means that you are lacking in humanity, in feelings, in understanding. That officer was indifferent to George Floyd as a human being. Now, I work with a lot of police officers, white and Black, who I know that when I go into a situation, they will have my back, I will have their back. And I know that if something gets crazy, something is wrong, that I will do the right thing and they will do the right thing. And what I saw was a total lack of caring for a human being. There's no way around it. 3 people laying on kneeled on a handcuff and controlled man is no reason to remain there for that period of time. I don't care what comes up as to what led up to it. It doesn't matter to me. When they decided that they were going to remain on that man, on George Floyd, for that period of time until he died, there is nothing that anybody can tell me about what led up to it that will justify or make a difference in what happened to George Floyd. Plain and simple.
Thank you, Bobby. Thank you for sharing that. And I want to echo that question to Will and John, and I want to hear from you. Will, tell me what you saw as a Black man looking at the video of George Floyd.
I mean, there's a lot of emotions that like are channeling through my blood right now about it. It was horrific. It wasn't like it wasn't a movie I was watching. It wasn't a terrible sitcom. It was reality. It was me watching someone. Let's just take away the badge, the gun, the uniform. It was a human versus a human, afflicting an immeasurable amount of pain and suffering upon them to the point where a life was lost. It was lost. It's very sad. The cry for help was there, and it was ignored. And it's like, when I think about it, I take this a little bit further. It's like, growing up, there was like a childhood game called, slap boxing, which is still prevalent to these days. And, kids would, go the distance of trying to, inflict some sort of minuscule pain upon each other, whatever the case may be. But it was all fun and games. But even in that game, when someone cried out, stop, enough, even if you did not know what was going on in that current situation, you stopped. You stopped. So when the cry yelled out, hey, I can't breathe, and followed by a bunch of other things, it was, you should have just froze. Something in your mental mindset should have just stopped. You should have stopped and assessed the situation. But the fact that was, he was on his stomach, handcuffed behind his back, wedged between a tire and a knee, and he's yelling for his life. Like, I don't. Whew.
I understand.
It's very, very. Yeah, it's just things have got to get better. Things have got to get better. Forget our position in power. It's just us as humans, and how we process things have to get better. How we look at things, how we go about doing things. That everything has to get better. Got to hold our own selves accountable. Forget about what Tom, Dick, and Harry are doing. You got to worry about what you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing. John, please tell me what you saw in that video.
So my first thought was anger and rage. Then further, I thought, what would I have done if I were there and witnessed this reprehensible act? Would I have just recorded it in hopes my video footage would have been helpful in convicting this man? Or would I have jeopardized my life to help save Mr. Floyd? And that I still have no answer for. Everyone's recording incidents these days, so better question is, what can we do legally to intervene when an officer is abusing their authority? So, I mean, everybody knows the situation. Everybody is outraged, but what can we do? Like, if we witness this, what can we do? Like, can we put ourselves in jeopardy and intervene? Do we stand by and let another life get lost? What can we do is the better question.
That's a good question. And I have those same thoughts. Bobby, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, I just want to give my perspective on that. You know, my understanding is the young lady is catching a lot of flack for even recording a video, and you know that's disappointing to me. She's out there trying to capture a horrible event, and I just think about what if she had not? What if she had not? Would we have this outrage? We would hear about another black man dying in the hands of police custody, but the visual or the what we actually saw would not be there. And I don't think the vitriol that's out there right now would not be there. And so, John, you asked, what can you do legally? That's a tough question, because I know that there was a gentleman there who he stepped forward a couple of times, but he was held back, or he was forced back. And so that's a tough one, because at the time, the officers are trying to keep control over the situation, even though I know from watching what I saw that they did not have control. So for that young man to continually press the issue, he was putting himself in jeopardy, plain and simple. So I don't have an answer for you for that. You know, you want to say call the supervisor to the scene, but in the time you call, a supervisor gets sent, he gets on scene. Those are the moments that are too late, especially in the instance of George Floyd. So, John, to answer your question, I don't have an answer. I don't have an answer.
And see, we've seen all too many times where we have clear and cut video footage that, you know, we would think from a non-legal perspective that there would be a conviction, and there's no conviction, you know, and you know that's the frustration. We record this, we submit this as evidence, and there's nothing happening. There's no resolve. And so, do we intervene? Like, if that was my sibling, my parent, like, I would have probably put my life in jeopardy. So is that the route that we need to start taking as individuals? Like, you know, it's sad that, you know, like I said, we have surveillance video, we have individual recordings, and nothing's coming about, you know, and it's just like, what do you do? Like, what do you do from this point on? Like, do we intervene? Do we stop it? Do we try to deflect this situation by causing another situation somewhere else on the side? Like, how do we manage this?
Yeah, I think that's all of that is so valid, and we don't know, like you said. What do we do? We don't know. And I think that's a conversation over time. We're going to have to figure out something. You know, we're going to have to work together and figure out something that we can do to help each other in a situation like that. That's just a hard call. I want to ask a question to all of you. And this question is, how do we bridge the gap between the unheard and the Black community? How do we bridge the gap between the unheard and the Black community? And Will, can you take the lead on that question for me?
I feel like, you know, with that is it's a lot of people whose voices aren't heard, and you know, and the result I guess now that's happening is that with the rioting and looting and stuff like that, it's because we're frustrated, and that's how we're getting our voice out there. But I mean, we tried the silent march 50 years ago, and at the end of the day, we're 2020 now, and that there's really no change. There's there is not. I feel like the more educated a person is, and maybe we may have to take the I guess maybe put ourselves in a situation of the mindset of those who had strong viewpoints on this and whatnot, and maybe following leads, like in the words, like in Malcolm X. Maybe maybe we need to have that mindset. Maybe we need to build. If we have a good infrastructure, where we're constantly, empowering ourselves, I feel like that's going to make a strong movement, and then in return, our voice will be heard. But we have to be all on one accord. It can't be we can't do it because of this, and we can't do it because of that. We have to do it because we want to. And when you do that, it'll go far. Mentally, you'll be strong, and physically, you'll be strong.
That's good. That's good. John, you want to add to that?
So I think one way we can find the unheard can somehow express their concerns, they can look to contact their local politicians, whether it's email, whether it's via sending a letter, join local movements. There's churches, there's local NAACPs, flow it up the charts, like, contact your local leaders, communicate your concerns to the true local leaders, like work within your community to first develop, an action plan, and help develop an action plan within your community, and, try to, maximize it on a global scale, on a, national scale and global scale. I say start with your local politicians, reach out to them. A lot of us don't take the time to send letters, send emails. Most of our local politicians have email addresses. We can email them our concerns. We can write letters. We can start petitions. So those that are unheard can be heard. We just have to take the time to do it, and we have to do it in masses.
That's good. I like that. That's real good. Bobby, how would you say that we bridge the gap between the unheard in our community?
Well, I look at it. I look at it from the standpoint of diligence. I think we have to remain diligent. We are in a constant struggle, and have been in all of my conscious years, to gain equal footing. And from an economic standpoint, we have to continue to position ourselves educationally, and so that we can continue to get our foot in the door, because we know that many times once we get the interview and leave the room, the door is closed forever. So we have to continue to do that. And the more that we are positioned in a position to make a difference or to have an impact, economic impact, I think that's going to help us as a community in the long run, and we can always bring those dollars back and put them back in the community, and they will see their fellow brothers and sisters who have done this, have done that, become the entrepreneurs that my two fellow panelists are, so that they know that there is so that by remaining diligent, there is a possibility. And Jamie, one thing that strikes me is kind of funny. Here we are in 2020, and the NFL has the nerve to institute rules to require the interviewing of minority candidates. That says a lot right there about how how we are in a constant struggle and how far we have to go. They have to put in a rule. There should not be a rule. If I walk in the door, I should not be judged on my race, my color. But we know it's true.
Mm.
We know it's true. So we have to we've come a ways, and we know about the struggles of our those who have come before us, even to the point of sacrificing their lives. So that's why I see myself as as someone who has to be an example, and I'm sure my co-panelists feel the same way. I'm sure you feel the same way. And so we have to, in that way, when those who feel that they are unheard, they can see us, they know there's an opportunity. But I definitely agree with John that we have to reach out locally as well as nationally. And, I read an article the other day where in 2014, the blacks were had economic wealth of over $1 trillion. $1 trillion. You think about that. And if we can find a way to pull that economic power for the community, and then let the world see it, that is a voice right there. That will make Mr. and Mrs. White America sit up and pay attention, because that means that we have something, we're bringing something to the table, we have something to offer. Listen to us.
Yes, totally. Economics, the money. I totally agree with you. Wow. Thank you so much for sharing. I want to keep moving in. I want to talk about the justice system. How do we fix the justice system that was designed to target and the Black community? How do we fix it? Will, you want to start off?
That question.
How do we fix the justice system that was?
That question kind of almost brings me back to my military days, where we have the UCMJ is it's a code of ethics that military personnel have to follow, which is very similar to the civilian world. A lot of laws, and it's like, if you do this, there's that consequence, and vice versa. And one of my superiors gave me the best piece of advice in handling that. And he's like, know your UCMJ throughout. He said, when you know that, it gives you a lot of power, because when they know, they can't say no. And he said, once you do that, and then it's crazy, because now I saw myself in the military in situations where, I'll be quite honest, my superiors were white, and they tried to get over because I was maybe not of a certain rank like they were. I wasn't equal. So I was beneath them and they were above me, and they used that. And because I knew that, I was kind of a force to be reckoned with. They would try it, but they wouldn't go as far as they wanted it to be. So I feel like if we're all on that type time, then I mean, we just have to be smart about our own actions. We have to take ownership. Accountability is very huge. A lot of people don't do that. We're always quick to pass the buck, and whatever the case may be. But we have, in certain circumstances, we have to take ownership. I mean, the justice system is designed. It's designed to make us unfold, but we have to overcome that. And if we could put ourselves in a situation where we can either be equal or superior, I feel like that's going to help us out in a big way. Kind of like we actually are taking the power back. I mean, let's just be honest. I mean, we came to America not voluntarily. We were brought over here. So it's kind of like the world is our oyster. So is America is our oyster. So let's do something with it.
I love that. I love that. The world is our oyster. That's good. That's good, Will. John, you want to add to that same question that I asked?
Yeah, I don't know whether you can fix a broken system. However, if you're unjustly targeted, like Will said, know your rights. So the ACLU.org website has a bunch of information on your rights for different scenarios, such as being stopped by the police. Learn it. Learn it. Also, if you're able to donate to legal funds of groups such as the ACLU and the Know Your Rights campaign, that's knowyourrightscamp.com, they have legal teams that can help us. So we need to keep these legal teams funded. Lastly, serve on your jury duty when called. Many of us opt out of jury duty just because we don't want to be bothered, but we need our faces on these juries.
So true. That was good. Thank you, John. That was really good. Bobby, do you want to add to that question? How we fix the justice system, the broken justice system
Yeah, from
for our Black community?
from my perspective, Jamie, I think that is so, based upon what we saw last week, it is so important that we vote. We have to vote. And by voting, it gives you a chance to be heard. If you don't vote, you don't have a chance. If you do vote, then you're in the game. You have a chance. Okay. Also, we need to continue to pursue public office, because if we're not sitting at the table, sometimes it's hard to get a plate. You know what I mean?
Good.
So
Yes.
if we do that, get more of us at the table, so the more plates that we can get, and then we can start to have a say in what goes on, in particular with our justice system. There's a lot of things that people don't like about the justice system, but if you have the right people in place, the right voices that are heard, and then we go back to that economic power that we have. If we can attach it to a powerful lobby that will be heard, then we can make those needed changes in our system.
That's good. That's good. Sounds like, you guys said some key things, getting involved, sitting at the table, creating our own table. And I think that is the key. Wow, this is so good. So, John, I wanted to ask you, John, this question. Do you feel the civil rights movement and desegregation helped or hurt our community? Give me your feedback on that.
I think it has helped our community progress in certain ways, educationally, financially. However, it's made us more dependent on an economic system that has invested little to nothing back into our communities. Pre-civil rights, we were builders, farmers, business owners. We bartered amongst us. We were skilled. Now we go to Starbucks, Home Depot, hire companies outside of our community to do contracting. So it's made us very dependent on an economic system that doesn't invest back into ours.
Wow. That was good. It was a mouthful. Will, did you want to add anything?
Yeah,
anything to that?
Yeah, I would have to piggyback off what John said. Now instead of becoming independent, we're now become dependents, and we have to flip that back. Putting money back into our own communities. It's the only way we're ever going to prevail from this.
I totally agree with you. We have so much power, talent, gifts, skills. We're creators, we're inventors, business owners, entrepreneurs, millionaires, all of that. And if we can, I think we'll make our voices heard, like you guys said, economically with our dollar, where we are spending our money. We have to put it back into the Black community. We have to. We've said it before, we've said it in the past, but we have to make a difference, and we got to make a change, and we got to do it now. We really do.
You know, it's,
My next question. Go ahead.
You know what's funny is too is that when I look at, I know other people of different races, and I look at how they move, whether they're Jewish, whether they're Asian, whether they're Indian, and the one thing that sticks out that they all kind of have in common, and I feel like if we took that, had that mindset, we would be good as well, is that they're risk takers. And they don't risk it all in a sense of like, I'm gonna just do it with no plan of action. They actually have a plan of action and they risk it. They don't have a fear of failing. You got to fail 1,000 times before you succeed once. So, they do that. I think a lot of us, we want to, we don't give ourselves enough credit. If we don't give ourselves enough credit, how are we able to going to put that, that best foot forward? But, and it's crazy. A wise person told me that years ago, you have to take risk. And I'm not going to say I'm willy-nilly and I just jump out the gun and do crazy things. But there are some risks that I've taken. Some have failed, some have succeeded. But it gets me going. It gets me going to the point where I don't fear as much as I did 10 years ago, 20 years ago. So that'll actually help us too. I mean, we already are dealing with a lot of fear as it is. We shouldn't fear ourselves. We should look in that mirror every day and fear the person that we're looking
at. That's deep. The mirror. Yeah, that's deep. Wow. Go ahead. Go ahead, John.
To piggyback off of what Will was talking about, I think segregation and the civil rights movement, they made us dependent, and we weren't taking as many risks because we don't have to do it. We have progressed economically, so we can pay a system to do it, or we can pay someone else to do it and not do it ourselves, or find a way to create and innovate ourselves. So, like going back to the question at hand, we can't rely and be dependent. We have to do it ourselves. We have to learn. We have to go back and learn how to farm. We have to go back and learn our carpentry, plumbing, electrician skills, things of that nature, and learn how to do it within ourselves.
Wow. That's good. That's good. That is so true. Bobby, this question is for you. What do you see? I have a two-part question for you. So I'm going to say the first part again. What do you see as the greatest need in policing, and what have you been able to do to make sure that you're making a difference policing in your own community? So that's a two-part question.
Okay. As far as the first question, we definitely, I think that one of the greatest needs is effective recruitment. There are not enough of people like me in our profession. And if we can find a way to get more Black officers into this profession, that's going to be a benefit to our overall profession, because we will be able to understand better some of the ways and attitudes of those that who look like us. A lot of times, those who don't look like us don't really understand what the situation is, why there is someone who is raising their voice, why they are upset. And so the response may not be the appropriate response, because, and it's not because you're not trying to understand, it's just that you just don't understand. So I think that if we can recruit, do a better job at recruiting more Blacks, into the profession. That's going to be a benefit. And then once we recruit them in, we have to have equal hiring practices, because you get into the door and you position yourself to be in a process, but you are not hired for one reason or another. So we have to have better hiring process. If an agency says, yes, we're going to make a better effort in trying to get more minorities onto the to the department, then that should be reflected in their hiring practices. They should not just recruit them. It should mean that they get hired. All right. So, and then once you are there, I think another big need we have in policing is training. And I know that there are some agencies who are not able to do training, maybe because out of a lack of vision or a lack of funding. I'm fortunate to be on one of those agencies that understands it. They get it, because we are training nonstop. Okay. And so I think that is so key, because what training does, what it can do, it can help correct behaviors that need correcting. And one of those ways is decision making. Those officers who were dealing with George Floyd, they had poor judgment skills. And I don't know what type of training that they went through with their department, but just the optics of it alone indicates to me that if there was training, they weren't grasping the training. If there wasn't training, there should have been training. So those are the kind of things that we need. And then when things occur, there need to be, we need to make sure that we root out those officers who don't qualify to carry a badge and a gun. Because being a police officer is a awesome responsibility, because you literally, as we saw with George Floyd, you literally have somebody's life in your grasp, under your control. So we need to be able to have mechanisms in place where we can recognize a behavior, and I don't know if we need to go back to psychological testing and things such as that, so that we can, they have profiling and all this for other things. Maybe we can do a profile for who will not make a good police officer. And another thing is, and I don't mean to carry on, but there's when you go to school, you get a grade, and a grade reflects how you perform. So I think that what agencies need is a yearly system where they have to report to a reporting agency that gives them a grade based upon a certain criteria. And if they aren't meeting those grades, they will be required to do so or face certain penalties, consequences, whether they're economic or whatever. So that will help the oversight of these police agencies. Now, as far as what I think, what I've done to make a difference in my community, Jamie, I'm not ashamed to say that I'm a good police officer. I'm not ashamed to say that. I feel like I have the temperament, I have the local understanding of my community. I have the understanding of the laws and the policies or procedures that I'm to follow, and I just know to do the right thing, And so when I go out, I want these young men to see me in a position of authority, not just as a police officer, but a ranking police officer, so that they will know that could be them too. Yes. And as far as internally, what I see, what I feel that I've been able to do is I've been able to position myself so that I can have a say in what I see. If I see something improper, I have a say. And in my agency, my voice means something. It means something.
Wow.
So if I'm able to do that, I'm able to provide guidance to all of the officers that are under my command, and making adjustments to their behavior, adjustments to their activities, things like that, so that when they go out, they not only come back safely, but they go out and they perform their job and they treat people the way that they're supposed to. And if they don't, as far as those under my command, when they will know from me what they have done that is out of line.
Wow. That was good. That was good, Bobby. That was really good. Thank you so much for sharing your insight and expertise. Concerning that topic
Jamie,
and
can
that
I
question.
say one more
John,
thing?
my
I'm
question
sorry.
for you is there a yes.
Jamie,
Go
I'm
ahead.
sorry.
It's all about y'all
I want to
today.
say one more thing. I'm sorry. And I apologize to John and Will as well. But
It's okay.
you know, when I saw what happened to George Floyd, that was a time when I was ashamed to be a police officer. I really was. I was ashamed. And it's one of those times where you almost want to say, that is it. I've had enough. But Jamie, if I did that, then I lose the position that I have and the opportunity to make a difference in my own little way.
Yes.
So even though I was disgusted as a police officer that day, I still look at that, the killing of George Floyd, as my call to remain where I am and to remain diligent, to remain steadfast in trying to make a difference.
Thank you. That was heartfelt. And you're right. You're right. You can't throw in a towel. We need you. We need you. We need you. And thank you for your heart and thank you for your service. Thank you so much. Whew. So, John, this question is for you. Is there a solution to racism? And if it is, how do we combat that?
I don't think there's a solution to racism per se. Racism will always be present. Anytime there's a difference amongst people or person to person, there's always going to be some type of racism. But I do think, like the sentiments that's been, profound throughout this whole discussion from all the panelists, that, socioeconomic empowerment, investing back into our own communities, policing our own neighborhoods would be a great start to combat racism. So we got to get back to being community oriented. Like Bobby said, we have to become the power that we want in office. We have to vote, and we have to hold people of position accountable.
Yes.
So I think racism is always going to be present, but if we're interacting within our own little society, it shouldn't affect us as much. Just like Will was saying, other ethnicities, they operate within their own little bubble. So if we can do that as well, there's going to be outside racism, but it's not going to be, oh, I'm waking up this morning, I'm going to work, I hope that I come home safely, and I'm going to a banking job. I'm not going policing. I'm not, working in the jails. I'm going to a banking job. I just hope I don't get pulled over by a cop, and because the cop is fearful of Black people get shot. So if we work within our community, if we empower our community, I think we'll have to interact less with people outside of our community that don't understand us or may be fearful. So that may help, ease racism.
That's good. Will, I want you to piggyback on that, and I want to ask you, how do we, our station when we're talking about racism, are we able to do that? Are we able to avoid the racist language when we're talking about racism? In a friendly,
Yeah,
like, talk to me about that.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, we definitely need to avoid it. I mean, it's the classic term. It's all fun and games until somebody gets hurt, whether it's physically, mentally, spiritually. Um, what we say. A lot of people will joke um, amongst each other. Whatever the case may be, but you never know what kind of day that person may be having. You never know who's to the left, who's to the right of you. If you're in a crowd of people, you never know who's in the back who may just hear that and then may take that the wrong way. So we definitely have to be mindful about it. There's one thing that I hear consistently. Now, because a key word is consistently on my day-to-day travels, like in work, within my own job, and outside of it, is that people will say things and justify it because their friend is of that color. So, for instance, people they'll say something like, all Black kids buy sneakers, and then we'll take it as if that's it's coming across a little racist. And they said, "Oh, well, I'm not. My best friend is Black." That doesn't mean anything. That doesn't mean anything. Like it's about how you say it. It's your delivery. It's what you're saying. We're what is that us? It's us of the community. We never listen to what's on the surface. We're always going to be deep rooted because that's who we are. We're deep rooted individuals. you know so yeah, we definitely need to be mindful of that. The less we can omit, and I mean, even in our own community, if we can omit a lot of the words that were used by other cultures to downplay us and to fuel anger and make us feel less of a human being. I feel like if we could flip that around, instead of using that term, you know maybe just get back to maybe the Southern roots, or even the old school ways of just calling each other sister and brother. you know
Exactly.
we say that, everybody's our sister and our brother, but when war is upon us, where are they now? Where are the ones that you call sister and brothers? Where are they at? So it's all a mindset. It really is. I truly believe it's all a mindset.
Wow, that's good. You guys are. This is amazing. I'm loving this. I wanted to throw this in here, and I have like two more questions, and we're gonna wrap it up. And I want to ask this question to John really quick. Do you think that media a role in racism or fueling racism? Do you think that the media plays a role in fueling racism, John?
Indeed. The media strategically projects negative images of Black
Also,
people, Black and brown people, without giving positive images, the same equal airtime. So of course they fuel, a racist mindset. Someone that doesn't have any, a white person that was raised in the backwoods of wherever, that never encountered a Black person, all he sees is what's projected on the TV screen. So his first reaction
good.
is gonna be fearful of a black person, and then, you know, to add to that, he becomes law enforcement. You know, so and then he patrols a minority area. You know, so his mindset is already, you know, I'm shooting to kill because they're animals, and that's what the media portrays us. But if they gave equal time to those positive images of us, you know, they'll see both images of them. They'll say that there are individuals that, you know, are not law-abiding citizens, but there also are individuals that, you know, go to work every day, have families, have businesses, that are active in their communities, that are religious, that are spiritual people, and that are good people. So the media portrays us one way so that, you know, a person that doesn't interact with us on a day-to-day basis is going to receive it in that way, and that's fueling racism, plain and simple. So yes, they do. Like,
I agree. I definitely agree with you. That was good. I have two more questions, one for Will and one for Bobby. And Bobby's going to close us out. But Will, I want to ask you this question. Do you think that protesting is effective, peaceful, violent? What's your viewpoint on protesting?
We tried the silent march, and here we are. We're lashing out, and you know, it could go either way. I mean, we have to if we're gonna do this silently, we have to have our ducats lined up. We have to have all our eggs in the basket with it. We just can't do it just to be doing it. We have to do it with some sort type of meaning. You know, doing it violently. I mean, you know, when I see people protesting and I see the things that are going on right now, cities being ripped to torn, whatever. First, when I saw that, I was like, all right, so it was slightly, I was like, this is crazy, but I get it. I understand it. And goes back to the people who are unheard. These are mostly the folks that are unheard. You know, it goes back to everything that we're talking about. You know, if we're reaching out to legislators and, you know, politicians and joining activist groups and things of that nature, then if we're doing all that stuff, and we're doing it, you know, effectively, then maybe doing it the silent way, now it can mean something. But yeah.
Wow. Okay. That's good. That's good. And I understand from both perspectives. Peaceful, violent. I don't condone violence or anything like that. But like you said, when a person feels unheard, when they feel unheard, they scream.
Yeah.
And if they still feel unheard from screaming, if they still feel unheard, they yell. And then if they're still feel unheard, they bang on things. You know, they just want to be heard. And that's what our community, we want to be heard. We want to sit at the table. We want somebody not only to listen to us, but to take action on what's going on in our community. I think that is so important. And we're going to get ready to wrap this up, but I want to ask a closing question to Bobby. And my question to your fellow officers in law enforcement.
My message to my fellow officers in law enforcement:
Yes.
it's simple, Jamie. Do the right thing. Do the right thing. That's